Well, what is going on, everybody? Today we're gonna talk about the Illuvitar Sale because there has been a lot of controversy in the Illuvium space and I wanted to address it. It's all about this revised proposal right here. It had 80 downvotes and there was a lot of bad stuff in here, and that's why Vetemor did this video with Viper and Josh and Deraji, and they're talking about all the bad stuff that is in this first revised proposal. But soon after that there came out a new proposal which fixed a lot of the stuff. It had a lot of upvotes, it was very well received, and we're still gonna watch this video because I saw a post from Viper where he said there is still a lot of stuff they're talking about in this video which has not been addressed in the new proposal. So we're gonna watch this and I'm just gonna keep you updated on all the stuff that has been fixed that is not up to date anymore. And let's see how it goes.
The latest Illuvitar proposal has been a complete disaster. It's been very poorly received by the community, 62 downvotes compared to 23 upvotes as of the editing of this video, which is one of the most unanimous ratios we've had on any proposal to date. So I've brought on Viper, Josh and Deraji to really go through the nitty-gritty of this proposal, what we feel is not good about it or is good about it, and to really propose some alternative changes to it, because as it stands, this cannot be passed. It's just, yeah. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Okay, so the first thing is overview. The DAO is introducing Illuvitars, a new offering with a launch date of March the 7th, 2023. The Wave 1 sale will last 3 months. To support the marketing strategy and reach the target audience, the proposal approves the creation of 1,200 discs for the use of the DAO. The discs will consist of 1,000 standard and 200 mega discs to drive awareness and interest in Illuvitars. Partnership discs will be included in the sale as available. So on that part of this proposal, like firstly, I think that it's absolutely fine for the DAO to mint that many discs at the start. I think it's a mistake not to mint more than that in total, however. Personally, like what I would suggest be added onto this is like, let's mint that many to give away so that during the sale, you know, we've got those to give out and do promotional things and whatever, marketing, blah, blah, blah. But then at the end, like a day before the end of mint, before the end of the 3-month period, I think that they should actually, you know, check how many normal standard ones and how many mega discs have been minted, and mint 5% of all the standards that have been minted, mint an additional 5% for the DAO, and additional 5% of all the mega discs that have been minted, and just retain those in the treasury. And I think they should be doing that every single wave of Illuvitars, because Illuvium, as we get bigger, as we are like running tournaments and the game's out and everything, we've got these huge tournaments that we've got to be funding, and instead of funding them 100% with money from the DAO, obviously there'll be like entry fees to get into these tournaments, whatever, but like I think like 20%, 50% of the prize pool can actually be made up of discs from past waves, and even like from like waves all along the way, and that's just like value that the DAO can get. Like, that doesn't cost the DAO anything. I don't think anyone's actually going to really mind if the supply is diluted by 5%. I know that projects out there have done like 15, 20% of the supply just for their own promotional purposes or whatever. And I think it's just a missed opportunity only minting 1,200 discs rather than just taking a total of 5%, like doing that in the beginning just for promotional reasons, but at the end actually taking 5% of whatever has been minted and using that as the
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea, right? Because we're all in Illuvium together, so there's 5% taken for Illuvium, for the treasury, fill up the treasury to have like years and years of giveaways ahead of us. It's just a good thing for everybody. So I wouldn't see a point why we wouldn't do that.
The determinant. What does anybody else think on that?
The idea of 5% more supply, diluting what people bought, that's like the point against it. But then again, it's for marketing purposes. It's not for nothing to the project. So you can again argue, well, it's going to increase the price by how much? Hopefully, likely more than 5%. It's likely the case to be more. Obviously, it's not guaranteed. But yeah, I think it's important to mention that it's not just a strict negative. It's probably a net positive for the prices of that people have spent, for the value that they gained for the prices they've spent.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. You know, a lot of other projects, Web2, especially card games, give price pool in product. So I think that's fine.
Council member Deraji.
No, this is something you and I had talked in council last epoch, and so this is where we were at. I don't know if we were at 5.
His hoodie looks so comfy.
I want to say we were at like 2.5%. Where this number came from was guidance from the core contributors that do marketing, and that's where we got it. But I have no issue as well of doing a flat number up front and then a small percent at the end, whether it's 1%, 2%, 5%, makes sense.
I personally think that the community would be fine with 10. I think that 5 makes it a bit more reasonable. It's I don't think it's a dilution that anyone will like realistically feel. But if it is decided that it's 2.5, I think anything less than 2.5, it's like 2.5 is fine. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there, and we'll see what people have to say about that, whether that's in the comments on this video or, you know, in the Discord. Feel free to tag any one of us. To continue further into the IIP, we're getting into the more juicy bits. A number of the limited edition discs, so this is the alpha discs bit, including 5,000 mega and 25,000 standard discs, so 35.
So this has been updated in the new proposal. I'm just gonna show it to you right here. That's the alpha disc. It has been updated. It has been upped by 4 times. So instead of having 25,000 standard disc, we now have 100,000. And instead of having 5,000 alpha mega disc, we have now 20,000, which is, I think, a great thing, because with just 5,000 mega discs, like, this stuff would be gone in a split second, and most of it probably to bots. So this way is way better.
30,000, total alpha discs of the Illuvitar sales. This is like before the rest of them. Due to the nature of the process to convert from alpha sale to the non-alpha sale, the number of alpha discs may slightly exceed the allotted threshold. Whatever, that's fine.
So what they're saying right here, that there might be more alpha discs sold than the threshold was supposed to be. It's because if you order your alpha discs at the very end, but it was still available, and by the time your order gets processed, it's already over the threshold, you still get your alpha discs. So as long as you order while it's still available, even though the others might be in front of you, and you officially might be like not the 25,000 or not the 100,000s, but the 101,000, so behind the quantity available, you will still get your alpha disc. So as long as you're there when it opens up, the bots should have no chance of taking everything from you. You just file your order and you will get it, as long as you gave the order while it was still available.
And the price of the limited edition alpha disc will be 5 times the price of the standard mega discs, which we'll go into. And alpha discs will have the same functionality as non-alpha discs, but will produce portrait NFTs with a first edition stamp. Okay, so
let's check the prices, the updated prices. I think it's still the same. So the standard alpha disc is 0.025 Ethereum, which is around $40. And yeah, it's 5 times the price from the standard disc to the alpha disc. But this makes sense. So I have an easy time talking because I'm already in the future. I already listened to Aaron's thoughts on it in the town hall and everything, and I agree a lot with him. Because he says they want to cater to everybody in the space. So just the standard discs, they reduced the price, a lot of them. So 0.005, what's that? That's like $7.60 right now for a normal card pack, for the standard card pack, which caters to the normal collectors, to just the people who want to have those cards, also to the gamers and all of those people. But what about the NFT PFP community in Web3, which is huge? They're not going to go for an unlimited 3-month sale. They want to have something limited with a high price that they can flip in the future and so on. And that's what the Alpha Disc is for. The Alpha Disc has the same Illuvium in-game use as the normal disc. The Alpha Disc is just a first edition stamp. And it has basically, the quantity is limited, the price is higher, and you don't have to open them. So unopened Alpha Disc might contain something very rare that hasn't been out there, which then kind of incentivizes people to gamble on them later on, to buy them very expensively. And I think it's a great thing that everybody will have the product they want, and they're not going to miss out on anything. You don't need the Alpha Disc, they're just for bragging rights. To have something very rare. They have the same exact things in them as the normal discs, and you can use them the same exact way.
Stop there for now, and let's get a little bit into this. Viper, do you want to kick this off?
You can come at this from different angles, right? You can come at this from what is the how can you produce the max amount of revenue for the DAO, as this is a product by a company and you generally want to produce the highest amount of revenue. Now, there's a question, which way do you go? Do you go with the highest quality product you can offer to people? Is always going to be the highest revenue generating one, obviously only to some extent, because you have to attach some price to it, and you want to find some price that probably makes the company and the people happy. And then on the other side, you can come at it from like, what do people like, from going from there, what do people want? What is the target audience to some extent? And I think this is where a lot of the community opinions and also the brought forward proposal probably collide, where the idea of what Illuvium represents, it's more a Web 2/Web 1 if it comes to like strategy games, trading card games, that kind of stuff. There's people playing games with each other and having those collectible things, because NFTs pretty much transitioned to a one-to-one direct digital version of what trading cards were, like Magic the Gathering 30 years ago, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon about 25 years ago. So it's where you come to what is like the basis of this, I guess. And the Web 2 trading card community would be like, wait, 5 times the price, that's not what we're used to have. And I think Web 2 in general is a bit plagued by a lot of cash, I don't want to say cash grabby, but a lot of companies are very towards that direction. We've seen a lot of Activision Blizzard pretty much trying to generate highest amount of revenue in the last 1, 2, 3 years, because they would probably sell out the company, screwing up business deals, screwing up customers in the same time. You've seen things in card games like in Magic and in Yu-Gi-Oh! Multiple times where the companies seem to try to extract as much money as possible in the short term from their player base. And then we have where I think where Illuvium is supposed to come in as the opening for, well, we're going to do things the old school way of trying to provide as much value for the player base, for the consumer base. And therefore, I believe, from my perspective, I would think it's the best way to provide the best product. And this 5x seems to not go by what I would seem to be, used to be the successful history of TCGs and Web2 gaming, which is a tremendously growing market. But like the community sentiment has been more and more negative in the recent years, which hasn't stopped growth and revenue because there isn't really an alternative. Then again, what if there would be an alternative? And my personal thesis on all of this is more or less that Illuvium will be the alternative and will convert a lot of people. Therefore, I would hope to see this from a perspective of do it the old school way, do it the way that all of those people that have been enjoying these things for decades at this point, have been enjoying games and for decades, like, hey, let's offer them something to convert them over, and let's not try to address the, I don't know, only Web3 more investor focused group that probably has a lot more, not even income to spend on this, but money that they see as, I'm going to buy this to hold and resell. It's like try to attract more the people that just want to buy it for the sake of buying it. And maybe they're willing to spend more because it's going to hold some sort of value, like they're used to buying old versions of games or cards or something like that. So that's like where my idea of from a, I don't know, corporate, I know from a, not necessarily from a personal perspective, but from what I see in the industry, comes to maybe the 5x price looks pretty bad. I would assume a lot of bad press and YouTube videos and similar like that, following not only from Web3, but also from Web2, which is generally very critical of NFTs and critical of crypto, to see this as negatively, which I think would just not look good. And yeah, from a highest amount of revenue perspective, I don't know if especially the crypto view would agree with this, but just like an unlimited supply would mean that, well, you're just going to buy a product that you likely think from an investor and card game and digital game like Counter-Strike skins and things like that are also resellable things. People buy them to hold value. You buy a first edition thing, it's probably going to go up in value, but you're going to give the company a whole lot of money up front to eventually sell it a year, 2 years, maybe a month from now in the future. But it still generates a whole lot of upfront money to the company. Therefore, to me, the logical way of thinking would be unlimited supply and the same amount of price as the highest amount of money, plus making the community happy, essentially. That would be my rant take on that.
Yeah, so I have much the same view. My problem is with the alpha discs, not retaining that alpha status. Part of the whole thing with NFTs is you kind of have control of the digital asset you buy. If you are buying a alpha pack and then it is then becoming a not alpha pack, especially if you've bought it at a higher price, as is proposed, I find that just bad optically. I think it'd be perceived by the wider communities outside of just crypto as bad. I think it would probably damage the brand. And I see Illuvium as always being
So again, quickly the price update of the new proposal. It used to be 0.075 and it went down to 0.025, and it used to be 0.025 for the standard discs, and now a standard disc is on 0.005, which is, like we said, $7.60 right now, which is perfect. Like, this really comes close to the price. It's even cheaper than a normal trading card pack, and it really caters to this Web 1, Web 2 trading card game community.
Web 3 done correctly, and I think this is a step back. And I think already there's been a lot of feedback on the IIP, and I think we can probably find a good Goldilocks scenario where we can do this, but we can do it in the right way. I would like to think we can still do alpha discs. I think they're a good product. I think having a first edition version of something is definitely good long term, for future sales. And I think we can find a sweet spot where we can still go ahead with the sale of alphas, but also make sure we don't really piss anybody off.
No, there's a lot to unpack here, and I think it really is, like, to Viper's point of like a set price, unlimited supply. That really is what wave one of the Illuvium Beyond Illuvitars is. Alphas is just kind of set apart from that as almost a separate product, but giving you kind of this slightly higher status and essentially creating an ultra luxury option. And so the way that I've been thinking about it is the way that you guys are talking is like, who are you alienating and who are you bringing in? And that's the balance you have to strike of, is this a product that alienates, but also is this a product that brings in somebody different or somebody that wouldn't have spent the money on it either upfront or in the secondary markets? And something that I've thought about a lot as we've talked this with council, we've had probably 3+ hours of meetings in the past 2 days trying to iron out the details in this proposal, is let's suppose there is an alpha product, it's unlimited, but it's a set length of time. What is going to happen? You're going to front load just so much of your purchase at that point that once the regular product rolls out, that's declined in value. If you have a fixed amount that is at the same price, what's going to sell out instantaneously, and then it's going to hit price discovery on the secondary markets. And I'll play my role, and I know this isn't necessarily the community or the overall perspective we necessarily want to have, but me as a council member, I need to maximize value for the DAO. And if we were to sell it, we'll just use units of like 1 versus 5. If we sell it at 1, a bunch of bots go in immediately and buy it, and then flip it on the secondary market at 5, the actual price should be 5, and the DAO gave that value to the bot versus taking it themselves. And it's really interesting how the overall proposal sets it up of it's fixed number and fixed time. And so if the price is too high, the community boycotts it, nobody wants it, it's going to end in 7 days anyway. And it actually drives up the scarcity more, which again may pull in a different type of buyer than we wouldn't have got anyway. Then you go into the main product of wave 1. And so it really is that balance of who are you appealing to? Are you pulling somebody else in that does want that ultra luxury status symbol that is only going to be available of 30,000, even if the community grows to 10 million individuals? This is all there's ever going to be of this thing. And just like alpha magic cards, like I'm priced out of a Black Lotus. It's not something that everybody should have or can have access to. That doesn't mean I hate the game and I haven't collected it for 20 years.
You mentioned the alpha magic cards. You collect magic yourself, right?
I do.
When those were sold originally, were they sold for more or less than the second editions?
They were sold for the same amount, but I think the piece that is different is we have 30 years of experience, and everything that we've talked so far, and even before this conversation, was we see how this could play out. And so it becomes a speculation on the investor side of maybe this is big, maybe it's nothing. But if it's big, these are the ones you're going to want to have, and I want to have access to it. And I don't disagree with that, but it's all risk at this point. Like, this is essentially Illuvium's first product after Land. And while there's been speculation of a trading card game, and I think that's a good idea, we have so much scope right now, I wouldn't approve doing that in front of Overworld, IZ. And so the fact that we are launching this more as a profile picture and collection game, it's really setting itself up to be something different. And like I said, I'm trying to balance the value to the DAO versus immediately the DAO transferring that potential value over to collectors.
It makes a lot of sense what Deraji says, right? Like if you sell the limited edition for the same price as the unlimited edition, obviously the limited edition is gonna be worth more than the unlimited one. And you're gonna find that how much it's worth more on the secondary market. So if you already sell it a bit more, it's still probably gonna, like he said, if you use the units from 1 to 5, like if you sell it for 5, it still might go up to 10. But then you didn't lose 9 in between, you just lost 5. You know what I mean? So yeah, it definitely makes sense to just keep all the revenue with Illuvium, with the DAO, and not just give them out as cheap as possible, and then they get sold by bots on secondary markets for way more anyway.
Versus players of the collection game.
Yeah. So my take is very much that it's already like compared to just other PFP projects, I think the current prices are just pretty reasonable. 0.075 ETH for the like the big ones. Are they a mega discs, and then 0.015 for the standard, which is like reasonably cheap when it comes to PFP NFTs, and which is pretty. But when it comes to like pack of cards, I know that it's only potentially a card game, and there are other ways that they can like find ways around it. But from a collector standpoint, like it's better to have a first edition than a second edition, but like collectors do expect first editions to cost the same as a second edition. If there is enough demand for this product that it's worth 5 times what is currently like 5 times like just the starting price, then but like why are we at all just creating this artificial scarcity on it? Why are we setting it to 30,000? Instead, I would propose set it to 7-day limit as is, but just mint an unlimited amount, however many people want to buy. That way, like you're not like outpricing people, you're not alienating anyone. But then you also mentioned, but what if people just buy it for that price, and then the moment that sale ends, what if it's worth 5 times more and like the DAO has lost that value? Well, I would say the DAO hasn't lost that value, and the reason is because there's an unlimited supply in that 7 days. So I don't think that people would just buy 30,000 in total if they were at the same price as the normal ones. I think that they'd easily sell 5 times more, or even 10 times more and above. So the DAO would actually end up raising more money. I'm also an investor. I want the DAO to raise as much money as possible, but it would also be within Illuvium's ethos of, you know, like a completely fair launch. Everything is fair, and like nobody's just like extracting value from people. And it's the fact that like, oh, you know, first editions, we've seen in other things that they can end up being worth more. So our first editions, they cost 5 times more because we're going to take that value up front. And it's like, I don't think that's a good look on any level. And I think that like overall, like selling them at the same starting price as the others, people will put all of their demand in rather than like only some of the demand because there's a capped supply.
I see Vetemor's point a lot here. Like, it makes a lot of sense. The only thing that we need to think about when thinking about those things is that we are not in a Web 1, Web 2 environment anymore. And we want to cater to Web 3 people. And Web 3 people, NFT people, PFP people, they need scarcity. They need a limited supply. If you tell somebody, yo, you can get this thing that's probably going to go up in value, but there is an unlimited supply for it for 7 days, they might buy some of them just to gamble with it, but it doesn't sound as appealing as if you have 10,000 and that's it. That's all you can ever get. So it sounds way nicer if I have 1 out of 10,000 and millions want it, compared to millions want it and millions can get it. But I know what Vetemor means, because it would feel nice for the community to enable everybody in like this 1 week period that he suggests to give everybody those first edition things. And yeah, if you're smart enough and if you believe enough in the project, you aped in, bought a lot of them, hodled them, and they still gonna go up in value. It's just like, the thing behind the alpha is to bring in Web3 NFT people who are not interested in Illuvium in general. They just are interested in collecting and flipping NFTs. And I think with unlimited supply over a limited period of time, you're not achieving that.
And then everyone's happy. And then what happens is, then the scarcity isn't completely artificial. It's artificial to the extent that 7 days, but then suddenly everyone that's collected all of those, like the price probably then does go up, and then the only reason people still will have a reason to buy the second edition ones because they have another 2 months and 3 weeks to do so. There's just a lot more time to do so, and I think a week is chill. Like I think that totally makes sense. But capping it, putting it at 5 times more, it's just needless. Now, I'm going to continue reading the proposal. The next bit, obviously...
Real quick there, because
I
want to say, if you take your entire rant there before it got to the very end, and it's like, and the second edition, it's like, view all of Wave 1 as first edition. And if you just change everything that you said from 7 days to 3 months, that's the exact proposition of Wave 1. So if you play that back, that's exactly what we're trying to get at. It's just these alphas are this different product. And I think it's an interesting debate. Because
we're adding this new product, and this new product is before the rest of Wave 1, the rest of Wave 1 is no longer everything I just said. It's only the alpha that is everything I just said, because it's only alpha that is first edition.
Yep.
It's only alpha that is first edition.
Versus first edition. Because I would say, like, there's a beta
it literally says in the proposal, but will produce portrait NFTs with a first edition stamp.
Yeah,
it's very clearly the only thing, therefore, that is first edition, and by de facto making the rest of Wave 1 second edition, which as far as the utility goes, it's no different, but it's just like in collector value, obviously first edition is superior. It just is. But that's in the eye of the beholder. That's not like objectively in utility wise, it's the same.
Quickly as well, we keep talking about and bringing it back to.
And quickly as well, I just want to repeat what Kieran and Aaron were talking about in the town hall. Like, there's two types of people. One person wants to have the first edition alpha and as many as possible, but if you don't have, like, I don't know, $500,000 to spend, you're never gonna get a full complete collection of alphas. You're gonna have maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 50, but not all 150 of them, for example. So there's those people who just want something rare because it's rare, and there's those people who just want to invest all that money that other people put in alpha product into the second edition and just want to have a complete second edition because it's not that expensive, it's way more accessible, and there's going to be way more on the market because there's more supply, and people want to fill a full book at the full collection. They want to have the full collection. This is going to be 100 times cheaper and more achievable on the standard edition, the second edition, and it's gonna be pretty impossible on the alpha edition. Maybe there's gonna be one person.
To TCG, and that's mainly because I think all of us here can see the parallels, and we know there's potential of a card game, but ultimately it's a collectible card game. That's what it's positioned as at the minute. And that's just like, I collected, sticker book album as a kid, football stickers, at school in the 90s. And the utility for that is basically mirrored in Illuvitars. And that's what it's trying to be. Obviously, the rest of it's speculation. But, again, first edition, mirroring, all that sort of stuff, still valid, so you can still draw those parallels from the TCG straight across into Illuvitars. So I think everybody's made, some really good points.
Also, just
like coming back to this point that Josh just said, like for me it would be way more valuable to have like the full page, all the stickers on this, compared to having like this one rare first edition sticker. Like as a kid or as a collector in general, I more care about having them all, catching them all, instead of having one shiny. Like I would rather have my Pokédex filled with like with all the Pokemons there are, like catch them all, compared to just having one shiny Pikachu and that's it. But yeah, that's like different people, and I think everybody can be satisfied. Everybody can pick the product they want and be happy with it.
To quickly mention risk, as far as I can see, like what we're suggesting, and what is being suggested in the proposal, I think both could end up being successful for the DAO and end up going well and having a great time and everything's great. I think, but what we're suggesting has almost no downside risk to it. I would say none. Whereas what is currently in the proposal has some genuine risk of alienating people, actually absorbing less revenue, because the fact that there's a cap means that there's a limit, and the limit means that like maybe bots just buy out the 30k and then they're selling it at 10x the next day, and then it's like nobody got it. There's hurt feelings, there's risk of just it looking bad and leaving a stain on the brand. And I don't think there's any risk of that if there's an unlimited amount that can be purchased in the first week. So I just think that risk exists.
The one risk that I think is not thinking about is those Web3 people, the collectors, the PFP, NFT people who want a limited supply, who want real scarcity, and you cannot attract them with unlimited supply over 7 days. And that's a big community if you can attract all of them.
And it doesn't need to, and I don't think the risk comes with any additional upside of any kind. I don't think whales have an issue buying first editions for the same price that then second editions will be available for. Like, they're still going to want to buy them. They're going to be like, oh, this is so much more expensive, it must be better, I really need to buy this. I don't think that is going to be much of a thing.
I think we all can agree, though. I think we agree anyway, that the idea that you would not allow the packs to retain the alpha status, though, would exclude the type of collector that likes to purposely buy sealed goods, toys. I've got a bunch of pop vinyls here, and my nephew buys them me. I never open them. There's plenty of people that collect stuff like this, never open them. It's the same with, TCG, CCG, all this sort of stuff. They keep this stuff. They open stuff as well. They want a fully, finished album, but they buy a bunch of packs as well just to hold them long term because they would like to have part of a collection. And ultimately, if you take that away, you're less likely to get those types of people to buy.
Okay, let me read the next bit because that obviously speaks to what you're getting into.
So one more time, just to make that clear with the price, they're talking about the old prices, which were 5 times higher than they are now. So it used to be that this price right here for the alpha discs, that was the price for the normal discs. And then the alpha discs would be 5 times this price, which was way too high. So they lowered everything by 5 times. So now the alpha discs are actually what the normal disc would have been usually. And the normal discs are just 5 times cheaper and are now super cheap. So they cater to the broad community who just want to collect, and for the gamers and for the TGC people. And this really caters to classic NFT Web3 projects people. Okay, I feel like I have repeated myself a few times, but I just wanna make clear that it's just a new proposal. So it's absolutely right what they're saying about the old prices, and it has been fixed, which is really nice. You can read the full proposal if you go in here. You go on the first one right there. It's from the 9th of January. This one is the overview that I've opened right there, and there's the fully IIP, the full proposal, if you want to check it out.
So alpha discs will also receive the following. So this is another thing to set them apart beyond the fact that they are like having a first edition stamp. 1, the ability to claim an exclusive alpha emote. Cute, but nobody asked for it. 2, receive a chance to get an exclusive alpha skin. And just another gacha, you're entering a prize draw. Nobody's asked for that. I just want the first edition. I don't want to pay more for that, but it's being added to the price. And 3, will be entered into a draw for the chance to win an all expenses paid trip. Blah, blah, blah. It's just another potential lottery thing, which like all of those 3 additions just seem like things that have been added to justify.
Hey, that's pretty cool. I can go on a trip to Australia with my girlfriend. I'd be really down. I really want to visit Australia, surf a bit there, meet the co-founders. I mean, I get what Vetemor says. Like, this is just stuff that hasn't been asked for, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Like, it's still cool things.
By this 5 times price in some way. I think
I don't like the alpha emote. This really feels like it's just like something cosmetic, right? But this feels like you're not getting the full thing when you're not buying alpha. Like, this kind of feels like the standard disc community is like putting into a lower level than the alpha, which should only be for the rarity of the NFT itself, not for like in-game stuff. Like, you can use an in-game emote that shows you bought the alpha. I don't like that one.
Those are all services that you can just like frankly, the entered for a prize draw to win the all expenses trip, you can include that in the entire set. It doesn't even have to be in just the alpha set. Include it in just the alpha set. That's fine. I personally don't mind the alpha emote being included as is. I like whether they want to include these or not. If they reduce the price to just 1x and just keep it, simple. I don't think anyone cares about these prizes as much as like that sounds like how it sounds. I'm buying an Illuvitar. I want my disc, and I think that's the main. That's my take on that. And the second part of that is alpha discs will be available for 7 days from the start of the sale or until sold out. Alpha discs will transition to non-alpha equivalents at the end of the alpha disc sale. this will be clearly indicated on the Illuvitar Sale page. And now this bit is a tad shocking because like currently it's being offered at 5x the price. And if you buy that but don't immediately open it, at the end of the 7-day sale, those cease to be alpha discs and just become normal discs.
So this has been changed by now in the new proposal, which was really important. Like, I get why Vetemor is really angry about this, because it's rubbish. And now you can keep unopened alpha discs, which is super exciting. I think this makes it even better, because I'm just gonna buy some alpha disc and just leave them there. I'm maybe gonna open one mega disc, one standard disc just for a stream or something, but I'm gonna buy a few and just leave them there and yeah, see what happens with that. But yeah, this doesn't make sense, and it's good that they changed it.
Just for the reason of missing prints, we'll get into missing prints, but I think let's cover just this for now. Viper, why do you think that alpha discs should not be available for only 7 days to open?
I think on a maximizing income / making people happy argument again, well, like you said, there are going to be people that just want to buy and hold them. I've personally heard from a lot of people in Discord, myself including, that had that intention in general, just like buy some, don't open them, hold them, because opening a pack of cards is usually a net negative, but if you hold them over a very long period of time, it's a net positive, as it has shown in like real world equivalents to those things. So that is like a strategy.
I almost wanted to skip this part because it has been updated and they're not gonna, you are able to keep them unopened, but I'm glad I didn't, because there's some nice input from Viper, who has really good insights in many stuff that concerns Illuvium, because he has been in the TGC community a long time, in the pro gaming community and all that stuff. Like, I really value his input. It's good to not skip him.
For people that then want to spend money on the product, which in the alpha disc thing, okay, it's a limited supply, so maybe it doesn't matter that you would attract more people if you're already filling your orders anyways. We can argue if that's like you know, in the fixed supply thing, maybe it doesn't matter, right? Maybe we attract enough people anyways, but maybe we don't, and then you want to have more buyers. And also in the price finding thing, I wanted to mention the land sale was essentially a very fair, consumer-friendly Dutch auction where you had a free market price finding of figuring out how much want people pay for this, right? So you arguably maximize the amount of revenue while not pissing anyone off. So I don't know how technically difficult it would be to implement something like this here, what other NFT projects have done, but there's like a fair Dutch auction. You just have like X amount of supply, the price keeps going down, people put in, I want to buy at this price, and whenever the last amount of price is put in, then people get refunded whatever they paid extra. So everybody pays the lowest price, and it's like a race, like what is it, like a race of chicken, like who bets the last pays the least, essentially, or something like that. Or do you just buy at higher price and you're okay, and so on, right? But yeah, that's like a free market price finding to the thing where Deraji said you want to maximize the revenue for the DAO, and if you sell it too cheap, then the free market will just determine it should be way more. Well, on that, you kind of get the free market price without like gambling about what is the free market price, I guess. Again.
So yeah, Aaron has been asked this on the town hall meeting, and he said it would be ridiculously hard to have like millions of auctions going at the same time, and it's just not feasible to do that for the Illuvitars.
And technically, I don't know how possible that is in the short period of time.
I kind of want to jump back to some of the section that you read there and kind of touch on a couple things, because that was a dense section. And I'll say like the value that was added to the alpha discs of it gets the first edition stamp, it gets the emote, it gets the chance at the skin, it has the trip, and you're like, I don't like those things. Like, not every product has to be for everybody. And I think there are people that are going to love, like, I'm one of 30,000 people that when I win a game of PvP that I can emote with this, like that's something they may be willing to pay a couple $100s for. And essentially that's included with the purchase of Alpha Disc. Maybe you don't, that's not for you, but that's the thing. Like, not every product has to be for everybody.
But
Same
what
deal
if
with
the
Yen.
first edition stamped alpha disc is for me, but all these other things that have been like tacked onto it as a bonus for me just seem like bloatware that's just making me have to pay more for what I want.
I would.
It's still a question of, is it worth the price to you? Like, I only want a third of the thing that I'm buying. I buy it because I want to pay $600 for it. I'm going to throw away 2/3 of it because I value a third of it at $600. That's kind of the question.
It's very similar to what, especially Blizzard has at some point in their World of Warcraft and other games figured out, that they create a whole bunch of extra things like these emotes, like those skins, just like extra things that by themselves they're not really sure if they would sell, or they even tried to sell them by themselves and they had poor results with it. I've seen it many times in World of Warcraft that they offered skins or mounts and they just didn't sell well. Then next time they sell them for cheaper and they actually start selling, or at some point they just start throwing a bunch of those concept arts and emotes and skins and so on just in the pre-order bundles or in just various different bundles, where it's just like throwing a bunch of extra things to them, and then it's just an extra thing people get, which obviously makes them like they want to buy it, and so much is the argument that you're presenting. But I mean, those companies pretty much realized those things are not that valuable to most of the consumers, and they're not generating a lot of revenue off them if they just put them out by themselves. But if they just bundle it together, it's like a sale at a shop. If something is $200 or if something is $300, but 33% reduction, people are like, oh, it's $100 cheaper now, I can afford it. So it's more of a marketing thing than I want to say it's something that provides real value to people, which again I don't disagree with, but it's just in traditional gaming it's been shown that it is there and it's not super effective as well, to Vetemor's point.
I look at it like I've seen a lot of NFT projects.
Didn't you just say that it has been effective? Looking at Blizzard, they just put it in their bundles, and I'm pretty sure they sell way better than the items on themselves. So if you have those cosmetics items that you want to give to the people, it's the most effective way to give them in bundles. So you reach the most people with one bundle, I guess.
Bundle these sorts of things, like mint this many, get a free watch, or if you buy this many, you'll be entered into a raffle to get a MacBook, or you'll get a trip to somewhere, in a hotel, and it's not quite as bad, but it's almost like that. And I think you should just let Illuvitars stand on their own 2 feet. They're good enough of a product as they are without needing these extra things. Like, let the product talk for itself,
I mean, I don't mind the alpha emote being thrown in there. It's not a lot, but it's not a lot of effort on the studio's part to create that alpha emote. And additionally, like I play Modern Warfare 2. I pre-ordered it. I played in the beta. I have a bunch of stuff from the beta that other people don't have in the game. That stuff is kind of trash. I don't want to use any of it. I don't want to use any of those skins because there's newer skins that are in the game, and like, I'm not dunking on anybody by flexing that I was in the beta. Like, no one cares. And so this has no value. Like it's something that almost nobody will ever use functionally. And like it really is I think it's a cute thing to give as a bonus to anyone that participates in this, but that doesn't justify the price. Receive a chance to get an exclusive alpha skin. I think that's super cool. It doesn't justify any addition in price. That's something that you just throw in there, will be entered for a draw to win an all expenses paid trip. You're going to raise millions from this. An all expenses paid trip is nothing. Like, it's one all expenses paid trip for 2 people. Like compared to the cost that's going to be raised here, it's an insignificant cost. So all of this is basically like, I think it's a nice bonus that feels like, oh, that's nice, but then when you see a 5x price increase, you're like, I don't want that. Get it away from me. Give me my product for the price it's supposed to be. And the only thing that I perceive that I'm actually getting as value from this 5x price increase that you've circled back to multiple times is the prestige of being only one of 30,000, owning only one of 30,000 of these things that will be first edition. And I'm not saying that like there isn't a market for people that want to own something that is that scarce. There definitely is in crypto. I just don't think that actually maximizes the revenue that the DAO can raise from this. And just to move into the next bit of the missed prints, so within the 30,000, that level of scarcity is such that it won't even within the 30,000, there won't even end up being a first edition of every single type, and so therefore we're actually going to force people to have to open their discs so that we can see which ones are missing, so that we can at that point make mint artificially to fill in all of those, and we're going to sell one-of-one versions of the missing prints, and those are also auctions that can also raise additional revenue for the DAO. Now, instead of doing that, if we had it uncapped, like unlimited, buy as many as you want for the starting price, I think we'll sell more than 5 times the 30,000 written here easily. I do believe that there is a lot of SRV2 that needs to be burned, and this will be a great burn mechanic for it, as well as to raise ETH, which we need to increase the runway. And moreover, what we can then do when it comes to the missing prints, just I think those alpha discs, if they're not open, should just retain their alpha status, because that's the value of them. Like, that's why people buy like packs of cards that are first edition. Like it's literally like part of the sales premise is the fact that they don't want to open them and they want to keep them, and we're taking that away from people and overcharging for the right to do so. Instead, let's just charge the normal amount, raise a ton, and then when it comes to the missed prints, we don't know what's going to be missed. Probably nothing will end up missed, just because, you know, there's going to be a lot more sold. But just in case, what we can do is the DAO can then sell, once that week is over, one of every single combination that exists, which is in total more items, and it would be an alpha version, first edition of every single combination that exists. And that way, anyone can just have a bidding war for those, and some of those will actually end up being one of one, but just in that bidding, like they're just sold as a one of question mark, you know. And that's actually an idea that Josh had, and I think that's a great idea. Because that way it solves all the issues, and we don't have people should be able to buy a pack of cards and not have to open it. And if they forget to, for God forbid, it's the 5 times that they paid for it. Like, they still get their bonuses, but they lose the first edition and everything that really matters.
I totally agree with that. And I'll say I'm actually one of those collectors that has a bunch of unopened Magic the Gathering packs. Like, that was actually my intended buy with the Alpha Disc.
Just to clarify everything that has been going on. So the price is 5 times higher than the normal one for the first editions for the alpha, but they reduce the price of all by 5 as well. So at the end, like, it is the same price, just the normal stuff got 5 times cheaper, which is amazing, I think. And I think why they did that in the beginning, that alphas have to be open to be alphas, is because they wanna so for every combination of Illuvial that is missed, that is not generated in this alpha mint, they want to do a sale for them. So to auction them off, this is like this Ramfire. It hasn't been found in the alpha packs, so you can buy it, and it's going to be a 1 out of 1. It's a unique one. And if there is unopened alpha packs, then somebody buys this 1 out of 1 Ramfire, and then 2 years later, somebody opens one of those alpha packs and finds the same Ramfire, and suddenly this super expensive 1 out of 1 Ramfire loses half or more of its value, which wouldn't have been, or which is not too nice for the people who buy them really expensive in the auction. But it is a good compromise to let people have their alpha packs. So yeah, what's gonna happen is people cannot open them, and people who auction or who buy those missed prints, those 1 out of 1 Illuvitars, they run the risk of in the future there's gonna be maybe a second one being opened.
Was to buy a couple just to hold forever. I think there may be a compromise here, and I think this is something that we need to talk to the technical team on, of have a website that tracks the opening and see how many have been open, what hasn't been discovered yet. And the intent of that missed prints auction is to happen after 3 months. And so basically have alpha sale, wave 1 sale, missed print sale, and then move into next things that aren't part of this proposal. What could happen there is you have the 3 months, you have 30,000 alpha discs, and you say, okay, at this sale, 28,000 of these things have been opened. There's 2,000 that haven't. These are the things that haven't been discovered yet. We're going to auction them, but it's an extremely low drop rate. It may not be 1 of 1, but it still adds that value to the auction while retaining the potential value and retaining the buyers and collectors like me and some of the other folks here of hold that pack unopened with that as an option. And there's still very low likelihood that some of these things are going to be minted. And so I still think you probably don't lose extensive value of knowing it's a one of one.
It's also part of the gamble, which is all the more fun, right?
But you certainly add that value back to the investors, the collectors that are buying some of these 5x things. Like if that was come back in, I bet more people would say, okay, the 5x price probably isn't too far off. And it goes back to some of the things that you were saying of like, okay, these other pieces don't add value to me, but what is the value of saying 1 in 30,000? And if that's not something that interests you, again, this may not be the product for you. And a lot of what you described is just how wave 1 is intended, excluding alpha.
But so
And by the way, the supply for the alpha now is 120,000, I believe. Yeah. And Aaron did a lot of calculations, like let the AI run through it. And there is around, I don't know, I don't remember, like around 15 combinations that are usually like not opened. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of missed prints. Gonna be exciting.
I have no issue with, theoretically, if there was this massive market for this exclusivity. But what I'm concerned about is this has just a negative, it's just a bad press. It leaves a bad sour taste in the back of some people's mouths. They just don't like the look of it. It just feels like a cash grab. And I want to use that word because it's visceral. And frankly, that's how people... I don't want people to feel like Illuvium is a cash grab. I want people to feel like, you know what, Illuvium, they do everything fair. They don't try to capture the value of things. They don't try to create artificial scarcity.
And that's what they did in the end. Like, they did it fair by just being fair to the DAO and putting a 5 times price on the alpha disc, which is fair because it's limited. Doesn't make sense for me to have the same price on limited as on unlimited. And then to be fair, they lowered the whole thing down by 5 again. So I think that's the fairest thing that could have happened. Again, this is all the talk about the last proposal. And it was not that good. And now, like 2 hours later, they fixed it. Or 1 day later. There's a new proposal out. Most of it is fixed. Everything is happy. And that's the magic of Illuvium. Like in split seconds... a whole concept can be overthrown if it's not liked by the community and will be redesigned to be to our likings.
For something that doesn't need it, because, you know...
And sorry, Vetemor, for interrupting you again. And I really appreciate Vetemor and all the other guys like coming on and really talking their heart out, which probably made the new proposal happen because influential people like them were giving out their voices and... yeah, and other people voicing their opinions in the Discord, and then everything gets changed, so everybody or more people are happy in the end. So even though we're in the future and we have an easy talking about now. Like we can judge easily now, since it's already changed. Like this is inherently a really good thing they did for the community.
It doesn't. It just doesn't need it. The thing is, like there might be a demand for artificial scarcity, but like most people don't have that demand, and like they like to give this like prestigious thing to a small number of people, but screw your community and actually ruin their trust in the project, because frankly this goes against everything I thought that Illuvium stood for. And like the fact that I'm having that level of a reaction, it's like maybe this product isn't for me, but maybe this investment isn't for me, and maybe Illuvium isn't for me, and I don't want to have that experience, because I love Illuvium, and I think that truly I get why you'd want to have this be a luxury product, because frankly, my perspective on Illuvitars is that these are the #1 best NFT PFPs that have ever been created ever. There's no project that's come close to put this level of work and effort and just pristine perfection into an NFT PFP project. I think we can all agree on that. But I think therefore let's not handle it like in these like artificial scarcity and all these, like, let's just treat it like a fair thing, like we do with everything else. And like if people just want to pile in to that alpha and we sell 1 million, who cares? Like why do you need it to be scarce? I'm not saying that it just doesn't matter, because we've raised how many more times? Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's 30 times more. And it's like, well, it's not super scarce, but at the end of the day, we've actually just sorted out our runway problem. So I don't really care. Like, it just, do you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but like, the
more I'm listening to him, the more it makes sense. Like, the opinion of like Aaron or Deraji here and many others is, it's a good thing to have this luxury rare item for all those NFT Web3 collector people to bring them into the project. But Vetemor is saying, we don't even need those people. We don't need to bring them on. We got a big community already. Just give our current community all this alpha feeling, and it's gonna be more than enough to have our runway and to have everybody happy and keep going. So I'm changing opinions here.
People buy the alphas, let them keep them, and then once that's over, at that point, any resale at that point will be secondary market. That I presume that at that point, for a closed alpha disc, the price will start to go up. It's not going to go straight to five times that though. And the reason why it's not is because there's no limit to it. People exhausted their demand in buying it during that week. And then just like as demand comes back in for those alphas, there'll still be a reason to buy the non-alpha, the secondary edition, because it's like, well, I don't want to pay more for an alpha. I just want it for a PFP, maybe, you know? And so there's a reason to buy both products, but like, and I just don't think there's a reason to set this huge in place for the alphas that ultimately makes the brand look worse, actually isn't congruent with what the brand presented its ethos as, and not just my viewpoint of that, but pretty much everyone almost everyone I've spoken to so far has had that visceral reaction. So like if we're having this reaction and we really care and love Illuvium, like just your average gamer, like they're brutal, man. They're brutal, and this is, they're just not going to want to touch it, and it doesn't matter if it's good or it's not good. Oh, it's just a cash grab. That's all it is, and they'll never see past that if these types of things are being done, where it's just all they see is artificial scarcity, cash grab, and I don't want those words associated with the brand I love.
It's very un-Illuvium, you know. We've never done this, I don't think, you know, with anything we've proposed so far. It's all been, you know, for mass adoption. And I think, like I said at the start, this feels like a step back. It's like a smaller mindset. You try and target a smaller audience, extract max value out of those people instead of
all about mass adoption. Like, let's get as many people having one of these.
Yeah. So I think it will hurt the brand long term. I think potentially in a lot of, especially Web 2, people are itching to look at Web3 projects and make scam videos.
But what I don't understand is everybody's talking about the long-term downside that people see. Like this first edition was 5 times the price, which is like not okay compared to traditional Web 1 trading card games or Web 2. But in the future, after the packs have been sold, nobody's going to look back on the selling price. They're going to see the price, what is an alpha pack right now, and what is a non-alpha pack, a second edition pack right now. And no matter how much you sell them for, it's still going to be way like 5 times or more expensive to buy the alpha than the other pack. And it's going to end up the same way. The only people who could get who are gonna get alienated by this are the people who are in it already. And there is no Web 2 gamers in it already, at least not more than 5% or whatever. So I don't think you alienate the mass adoption in the future, because nobody is gonna care what they were originally sold for. It's all about what they're worth now. And how much do I need to spend to get them?
And I'm not saying Illuvium, and certainly not Illuvitars, is a scam, because it's not. But I mean, certainly you will look at, and bad press can come from this, and I just really don't want to see it happen.
No, I totally appreciate the perspective. The thing that I'll push back on is, does everything Illuvium creates forever have to be a single tier? And the way that I would look at it and get your reaction to is merch. Do we only ever want to have one t-shirt that costs $10, or do you want to have a leather jacket, ultra premium? Like, it's purely status. Like, maybe it has a slightly different functionality, but the functionality of both of them is they cover your torso. One is $300, one is $10. And it's like, I'm pricing out a bunch of people by offering a $300 jacket. Like, well, that wasn't for them. Like, I think the thing we get hung up on,
if I want to buy a million of those jackets,
same product as Wave 1, is so much of what we talked about is Wave 1.
Yeah.
It's just having the leather jacket equivalent.
But if I want to buy a million leather jackets from Illuvium, whilst they're still selling them, Illuvium will take my money, they'll produce me a million leather jackets, and they'll give them to me. They're not going to say, sorry mate, you missed the 30,000 cut off, now you're not part of the prestigious leather jacket club. No, they're not going to say, they're going to take.
Well, actually, merch is often limited as well. Like, you don't have unlimited leather jackets. There might be a 10,000 leather jacket drop that people can jump into, and then it's going to be gone. Which kind of, I like it. I like to have like a set rarity. I mean, it would be the same if you have like 7 days to order them, but like, feels cool to have a leather jacket. There's only 1,000 out there in the world, or I would never buy a leather jacket, but like a special limited edition hoodie.
My money, and then even if they don't have the stock, which they won't have a million jackets in stock, they'll take my money and they'll make them happen, because it's money. It's like, why are we turning money away and creating an artificial barrier? I think it's completely separate, because I think this is much closer to trading card games than it is to physical like material goods that you would wear. It's a product that is also it doesn't wear out. It's eternal. It's an eternal product on the blockchain. It costs nothing to produce. The additional bonuses cost. Okay, all these things cost to produce. Obviously, the people have been working on them, etc. I'm not saying it costs nothing, but like, to produce more of it doesn't cost more. So why are we creating scarcity? Let the market freely dictate how many first editions people want to buy, and then let them trade them as they please. I believe that it will capture more value. It won't create it can still create a prestigious community of first editioners. I'm certain that it will. Like, there'll be people that prefer that, and that's fine. But like, it doesn't need to be a 30k club. It can be a whatever it ends up being based on demand club. It's just, yeah, we've never been about having a limit to quantity. Obviously, we've done that in the land, but then the land was a Dutch auction, and it's like cards. It's a card, man. It's not like this isn't something that's gonna earn you money. It's just a collector thing. It just doesn't.
Man, it's really hard to like both sides are really like you can really see their point. But to push back on that, like always comparing it to the original cards, there were never unlimited edition 1 cards. Like it was always limited, right? Like they would never print as many as they can sell for 1 month, be it 10,000 or 10 million. They would print a fixed amount of first edition cards, and then they would be sold. It would be the same price as the other cards, but it would always be a limited amount. So you can't really compare that. Like that's actually not like that. And for the increased price, it just makes sense today with all the secondary markets and everything, and with the NFT and the Web3 space. Like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me to have the same price for limited and unlimited.
It doesn't. I don't know.
I think, especially in gaming, right? In the recent years.
But Vetemor's point is, like, I think the 2 points are either you have unlimited alpha and you give it to everybody who wants them for a reasonable price, and everybody who's in here right now gets first edition, and it's like a really good thing for the long term. But the other side is bringing in short-term hype for the sale and for everything, bringing all those, I don't know, all the APR club or whatever, all those like really NFT, PFP people, bringing them in and creating a lot of artificial hype for the sale. So that's the 2 strategies there, I think. Either just pleasing the existing community as hard as possible and giving them everything for a nice price, which is absolutely a good idea, or having this artificial rarity NFT PFP style thing to bring in the Web3 community even more and attract new people right now. Which are both like good points, I guess.
Artificial scarcity. Sometimes it wasn't artificial. Sometimes it was like caused due to real world trouble and problems. But yeah, we're talking about gaming, and people are annoyed by, let's say, scalpers buying things and reselling them for more. If we're talking PlayStations, Xbox, graphic cards, and so on, and people have experienced that, and they're like, well, this is the listed market price, and somebody just bought it, and now they're reselling it for more. That's shit. People don't like that, and people are annoyed by that in the regular, let's say, Web 2 and real world kind of scenarios, right? So I think that's like the press argument. Yeah, it's like, of course, this is something that's probably looking interesting to Web3 investors because they are used to scarcity. They are used to there's only this amount of something, therefore that is valuable. I think in traditional collectible things, oftentimes the amount of the supply on the market is more the thing than the amount of existing supply, because Illuvitar still is a deflationary asset, no matter how many are sold at the beginning, because they will land in wallets of people that are never going to sell them, like every other collectible. It's going to be, I have this, I keep this now. So no matter how many it is at the beginning, it's still deflationary. The number is going to go down, which is going to make the number appreciate compared to something that is, I guess, a fixed amount of number, and it's going to stay that number. Which in most of the, of course, someone is going to never sell their NFT project, but people aren't, I want to say less people are collecting NFT profile pictures than people are collecting any like real world assets, and they're like, I'm never gonna sell this. So yeah, I think we're targeting, or Illuvium is targeting a market that is annoyed by scalpers, graphic cards, PlayStations, maybe even the game is released, and I don't know, if you had to buy a physical copy, the physical copy is out. I mean, that's maybe a decade ago kind of thing, but it was a thing. Maybe people are still annoyed by that. So I don't think that artificial scarcity is probably the optimal way here, and people are burned by it in the past. So might just make like negative reactions. And a personal anecdote, because we talked about Magic, for example. I only knew about the 30-year Magic $1,000 for 4-pack kind of fiasco thing because a friend told me that had a suggested video on YouTube about Asmongold talking about it, and the guy never played TCGs, never played Magic, and he was just like, well, this is really bad. Did you see this? I'm like, oh shit, it's bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have known about it. So those things are like pseudo mainstream article kind of scenarios as well. And yeah, I mean, you're not far off mainstream that's gonna cover some 9-digit market cap NFT games. Even in a scenario of Illuvium is gonna be successful, people might like look back and, oh, that's easy video content. It's gonna get a lot of clicks and views. And they're gonna make it because the majority of the people are still gonna be, that's my content creator, it's new video, and they have a hot take, they have a spicy thing, and being negative about something is usually gets the internet railed up. So I was just like, I don't know, a lot of like worries that I would see on all of those aspects.
I've got two things to say. So one goes back to the comparison with merch. I mean, technically, we do have the Illuvitar metal prints. So those people who want to buy a higher, or spend more money on a better product or a luxury experience can ultimately buy the mega disc, as many as they want, make that perfect Illuvitar that they want to make, or buy it off the open market, and then just go get that printed. That's an option for those types of people. You've got that option there. And then the second thing I want to go to talk about is, again, goes back to the pack opening. We discussed this briefly, all of us. But again, if you let people collect these alpha discs and retain them as alphas, later down the line, people are going to, do streams and open these things. And particularly just because they are that first edition alpha pack, they're going to do streams, they're going to open it up. Yes, they might have bought it off the open market from some dude for a little bit of an inflated price, but they're going to think, maybe I can get that. There's only one of these in circulation. There could be more in those packs that have been left over. It adds mystique and extra like cultural value to Illuvitars as a whole. And, that I can't say that's not going to have a massive impact on building the brand of Illuvium, because I think that narrative is really strong, and it has been for Pokemon. So I think ultimately it'll be the same for Illuvium.
Okay, well, I think we've all covered a lot there. It's actually, we've definitely run longer than we expected. So let's go like between all of us and just cover any of our just final thoughts, because I think we have covered pretty much everything quite in depth. Viper, any final thoughts?
We've covered most of the concerns, and Deraji has helped out understanding the view of the DAO, which is obviously contradicting because, well, we are contradicting with the view of the DAO with a lot of the concerns we have. And yeah, I think we brought a very productive discussion here. I think we were able to highlight a lot of the points of both sides. And yeah, I hope that our community essentially and council can give a whole lot of feedback and give more feedback themselves in the upcoming days to this.
Deraji?
No, I just want to say thanks for hosting this, and I really appreciate all three of your opinions as well as the opinions that are in the IIP channel chat. Like, this is a proposal. The council put a lot of work into it. The team had significant input on it. But at the end, like, it wasn't a vote before it comes up for this discussion. And so I think this is incredibly helpful to look at what can we change? What do we want to change? What is the impact of it? And I almost guarantee not everybody is going to be happy with what we approve. I will say something will be approved. Sale is starting March 7th. That's going to happen. What the parameters are, we need to figure out. But all of this is being heard. I've skipped the chat for about 2 hours while talking to these guys, and I can't imagine what I'm going to walk back to looking at that IIP chat. But share it. Like, this is what we need. These are all the different perspectives to come up with what is holistically the right single offering for the Illuvium DAO.
Josh?
I would say Illuvium community in the Discord is like a giant think tank. Like, this has gone into the Discord, and straight away there's been a ridiculous amount of feedback. Very vocal people. We are a minority of active community members. There's a lot of people in there putting some really good ideas forward, and I just hope, and I don't really subscribe to the idea we can't come to a perfect or as close to Goldilocks scenario of it works well for the DAO and it's not going to rub people the wrong way. I think there'll be a perfect kind of like Goldilocks scenario we can kind of come to, but it's going to take some feedback and some work.
Literally whilst editing this video, a new update came through in the IIP channel. So the council had a meeting to actually go over all of the feedback that everybody was giving in the Discord in the IIP discussions, and they've already decided to completely change the IIP, and they've said that they appreciate all of the passion and involvement that we've brought to those discussions. And that very, very soon there's going to be a new IIP that we're going to be seeing presented there. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'm definitely planning to make a video going through that as well. I definitely encourage anybody watching this to share your thoughts on the Illuvium Discord. I will link the entire proposal in the description. I will link the Discord if you haven't joined it, as well as the actual place in the Discord where it's being discussed. To discuss it there, you do have to be either an ILV staker or holder currently. If you want to find any one of these guys, there will be a link to something they've given me in the description of this video. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm Vetemor, you're the future, and I'll see you guys there.
I love that outro. Yeah, thank you. My closing words are thank you, Vetemor, for doing this video. I hope you don't mind butchering it, like me butchering it. I'm also gonna put the new draft in my description of the proposal, so if you want to check that out, do that. Also the Discord link, and also the Viper Josh's, Deraji's, and Vetemor's channel in the description. Check them out. I appreciate all of them. I hope this was nice to you. For me, it was nice. I wanted really to dive into it and really also let you know my opinion about it. And that's what we did. So peace out. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you probably tomorrow. Bye.